For Janus!
Yrliet, the Aldari sniper that joins your retinue as soon as you get into Act 2 going to Janus, she comes with the unfortunate weight of being an operative that has no homeworld and no usable origin. Yrliet also does not benefit from any cases of Stronger Together because both her and the other Xenos companion are excluded from such buffs. For the build today, I could very easily go through a cookie cutter bounty hunter assassin, but this has kind of been done to death since launch. So I would tell you that I actually normally play as a bounty hunter. However, that's still going to be a bit boring to present. So what I've decided to do is try my hardest to put together an executioner build that is fun and enjoyable to play. Yrliet is not a mainstay companion, and she's not someone who I believe has much impact on your retinue. So if you're picking Yrliet as a main damage dealer, then you've probably built your other companions pretty wrong, because she doesn't keep up with any of them on damage. Except this one build, so that's what I'm going to present, which is the Executioner. Now this build is going to rely on the pair holster, which means that you'll have to probably take that from Ulfar, or you're not going to be able to use it on a double gunner Rogue Trader pistol build. If you're not doing any of that, this is going to work just fine, because none of the other items that she uses overlaps with anyone, which is just perfect. So let's have a look at the build and see what Owlcat have put together, because unfortunately she is tier 1 level locked. As I've covered how Operative works in the Pascal video and the Idra video, I'm going to speed through a little bit of the level lock stuff quite quickly. So the first rank has Analyze Enemies, she takes Awareness, Expose Weakness, which comes standard, Dismantling Attack, and then the first ability they take is Sharpshooter, which requires enemies to be in increments of 5 cells to get bonuses, and you not moving at all, so not very good for the build we're going for. Perception, Nimble for more dodge, Ballistics Calculation, so enemies that are 6 cells or further with the perception upgrades I have take 15% extra damage. More perception, Precise Attack, so she's good at picking off targets that are in cover and can build up some perception if you use that on an exploit. Awareness, Fresh Target, so she likes to shoot people at full wounds. Swift Movement, so she can move a little bit more. Bit weird when you're taking talents that you don't want her to move to give her more movement, but whatever. Dismantling Attack upgrade 3, so we can reduce enemies' armor. Law Xenos, Ballistic Skill, there's the Insight for Precision. Medicate, Perfect Spot, so again, she can increase her cover efficiency. We got some Las Weapon Expert, and because most of the Eldar weapons are Las, that's absolutely fine. Comprehensive Analysis, Ballistic Skill, some Intelligence, her upgrade to In My Sights, which is Swift Sight, which is an absolutely god-awful ability, as you pretty much end your turn to take off one shot on the start of your next turn, which doesn't really increase your attack economy all that much. And lastly, Dismantling Attack targets also provoke attacks of opportunity whenever it attacks. If most combats last more than one round, that'd actually be quite useful. So this is the plan that they've going for. They want her to be a sniper, which is why you traditionally go into Bounty Hunter or Assassin, and due to her low intelligence and low fellowship, you don't really build her into a grand strategist. But let's see what we can do with this Executioner. So going into Executioner, we are using ranged weapons, so we don't really have a way to get the Scourging Strikes hit, but we will be using Force Repentance and where it hurts. Rank 2, Merciless Verdict. This can turn physical damage into Toxin and energy damage into Burning. So because most of the weapons you're going to be using will be energy, this is a way to get Burning, although you do still want to use Dogmatic too, but this is a way to stack that up. At rank 3, we get Death Warrant, so we'll increase how much Merciless Verdict is doing. Carnival of Misery upgrade good, going to get some AP. We're going to start increasing our Ballistic Skill, and at rank 6 we're going to get Does It Hurt. This is so we can start critting, well, easy with our dots. We get Exsanguination. This will help us get more dodge and additional movement, and we can use that so we don't get movement stuck, because operatives after they attack tend to get movement stuck. We're then going to take Anatomy Expert to turn Medicate into HP. We get some more intelligence and Drukhari weapon efficiency. In testing and play, you want to get this before you get 2-weapon fighting, because you want to be able to get those toxins as quickly as possible. And you will have a Splinter Pistol from Jay, and you'll be able to buy a modified Splinter Pistol quite quickly from the shop in Act 2. Perfect Anatomy can get armor. You can bring up another ability earlier, but I like to have that on there so she doesn't get dead, because you're going to want her up close with pistols, and it's going to be a little while till we get a Toxin Rifle or Sniper. Intelligence and Medicate are going to be very helpful here, so we're going to keep increasing those. We're also going to upgrade Carnival of Misery upgrade 3, we then get Master of Torture, because by now we should have at least 2 forms of dots. If you've started the DLC 1, you'll be able to get the backpack to get bleed on your shots. Hand of Avoidance you should have bought by now as well, which you can get from the contracts, and you can trade in for that, so you can add bleed on your gloves. And you should have some toxin pistols, and with Dogmatic 2 you've now got all 3 dots being applied on your shots. Burst fire is going to be the best way to do this. We then take some more intelligence, some more Medicaid, and then we get pain resonance. This can be a way to quickly finish off some things if you haven't already used where it hurts, and it gives you sort of an AoE extra attack. Dual weapon combat now comes into play, so this is where you can put in pair holsters so you can lower the cost of your secondary shots. Not vital, but very helpful with how AP intensive Operative is. We then get fragile playthings. This is going to be to start reducing enemy armor and to proc our next ability, which is going to be Wrecking Weakness. First we get Perception, more awareness, then rank 18, Wrecking Weakness. At rank 19 we get Perception and Jukai weapon equipment, because when you bring Yrliet into Act 3, this means that she'll be able to put on armor during those early stages. We're also going to take Carnival of Misery upgrade 4, so that means our dots will now start healing us. Burst fire where it hurts, gonna do a lot of damage. You one burst with 1 pistol and then you get a crit and you get the 0 AP offhand. Use that where it hurts, lots of damage coming. So, Tier 3 is when we're actually going to be able to start getting those exploits and optive abilities that they didn't take in their Tier 1. First of all, we get Eager for Battle, which is to make us 2 AP better in the first round, and then we're going to get Uncanny Sight, so we can explore, put on exploits to targets we can't see. Rank 2, we get Medicate and All-Encompassing Agony. That's another way to get 30% damage boost. We're going to take some Bliss Skill and Grenadier. There are a lot of good grenades now, ones that can armor strip, ones that can add bleed, and all sorts of other little effects. Rank 4, I take Tactical Knowledge. This helps Yrliet get up her damage. If you want, you could take Joint Analysis, however I think it's better to have Tactical Knowledge here. We also start getting our Medkay. Rank 5 we get Degraded Defense as soon as possible, because that is a fantastic ability for increasing damage. We also get Death in the Air. Whenever an enemy suffering from toxin inflicted by the executioner dies, all enemies in a 2-cell radius around that enemy suffer 6 levels of toxin, so it's a good way to start priming some of that. We then get Ballistic Skill, Passive Learning, so we can start increasing those operative dots, and then we get Reckless Abandon, so we can turn that temp wound into extra percentage damage. This is going to be one of our main damage increases, because a lot of the short range stuff, pistols aren't going to use many of the operative abilities, and when you do the burst fire on your bigger rifle, when you're going 5 and 6 cells, that's when you're going to be getting a lot of boost. So you're going to get more boost from the rifle, but it's going to have less attack economy. We then get some more agility. Tormenting Sprain. Whenever an enemy suffering from any of the executioner's damage over time effects dodges the executioner's attack, all damage over time effects currently inflicted on that enemy now deal an additional 10%. So if they manage to dodge any of your pistol bursts, then yeah, it's going to start doing some more. We also get Characteristic Training Agility, because that's going to be very good to actually getting turns. And because she has high perception and high agility, Yrliet's one of the few characters that actually does get turns. We're going to then take Awareness. Vital Points is going to increase our damage more. Rank 10, some more AP. Rank 11, Improved Tactics. This means that our tactical knowledge will actually start giving us more damage. We're going to get some Awareness. Sniper Expertise. We delay this a little bit because we're mostly using pistols, but it means when you are using Perfect Spot, you will be getting more armor penetration against enemies that are 7 cells or further. We're going to get some Awareness. Battle of Attrition. Might not see much use, but it's useful if you go into turn 2. We're going to get some Perception, more Perception, more Xenos, because we've maxed out Medicaid and Awareness. We're going to take Deadly Aim, because this is going to actually be a good damage rider, and Combat Insight. So once our perceptions 10 or higher, we start ignoring enemy deflection. We're then going to take Acute Pain, so that first dot's going to do more damage, but that's a big meh. We're going to get some more Xeno. Tide of Excellence. Yeah, not a very good talent, actually. Tide of Excellence needs a boost, but that's why we do take it late, but they might buff it, and then we'll have to reorder the build. More Characteristic Training Intelligence. We get Joint Analysis now. If you don't have Tactical Knowledge, you're going to want to fit that in there. More Intelligence, Critical Versatility, and Weak Body, Weak Soul, meaning those exposed weaknesses now are very good, so you're all ready to cripple the final boss and breeze your way through Act 5. To finish off the build, we get one more bit of AP increase, and we are online, and I hope you've been enjoying the footage in the background, watching Yrliet just absolutely melt things. When it comes to gearing Yrliet, there is a lot of overlap with both Heinrichs and Kibella, so they will normally take priority. However, luckily you can get many copies of the Mechanicus Respirator, so that's not too bad. However, you only get one copy of the Carmine Crown, and both Kibella and Heinrichs want that, and they do more damage. However, Heinrichs can also use the Eye of Joyous, so he's probably going to take that, and Kibella's probably going to take the Carmine Crown. If you not using either of them for some reason, put the Carmine Crown in the head slot, if not Mechanicus Respirator. Another key item on here is going to be the Hand of a Voilus. Yeah, that's very good for adding extra bleed. When it procs, you notice it, and it does do quite a bit of damage. I don't really use this on Heinrichs or Cabela, but you could, and it is very, very good on both of them. I just prefer to use the other things by own playstyle. The last one, this is a must, and the build does not work out with it, and it's the backpack with armor-piercing ammo. Whereas ranged attacks inflict bleeding on their targets. Very important to your burst fires, and it will scale with your armor pen. So the more armor pen, the more it does. Very, 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 very good. 2 optional items on the accessories. Eldar Flow, so the first attack during the round is 0 AP. If you crit, that means you get 2 burst fires for 0 AP, so then you can then set up your operative abilities afterwards. Pair Holster, pairs of it. This is what gives that second offhand a 0 AP shot. So 0 AP burst with Eldar Flow, another 0 AP burst with Pair Holster. Very good, because otherwise that would be 5 AP. Next slot, medium priority, Anatomous Amulet. If not, you could always use her Perception and her Agility boosting item, but this one's pretty good for getting those stacks up. There aren't really any good boots for her, so I tend to give her Skirmisher boots just because it's good to be able to shoot and move with her to sort of line up your shots a little bit better. Armor, not that important. Now, you do get a very unique armor for Cabela, but it is medium, and our agility is not really getting high enough. If you were using her agility boosting items, you can get pretty much 100% armor with her on this build, but I'm not using the agility boosting items, so we're not using the Craft World Adari Mesh, but instead we are using the Black Heart Cabal Origin Cavalite Light Armor, which gives us 15% dodge and gives us immunity to burning, toxic, and bleeding. Yeah, you can swap it over. If not, it doesn't matter, but it does mean that our Sanguinations do not inflict bleeding on us, and it does hit against movement. Secondary weapon slot, Dead Shot Splinter Rifle. Fantastic weapon. This rifle's Deadeye Shot has extra damage based on ballistic score on the toxin level, because if somehow something is surviving you really want it dead, you use that. If not, burst. And you want to be hitting things from 7 cells or further away with the burst on this. The pistol slot, Antagonizing Splinter Pistol, more toxin damage, very good, and a good secondary of it is the Venomous Splinter Pistol. High armor pen, so will actually inflict more bleeding. Very, very important. As for the grenades, Ionite grenades always important. Here's Repentance optional. If you have any bleeding grenades, use those. Those are very good, especially with throwing out 0 AP bleed. And it is useful to have stims on her. Yeah, this is a very strong build. Like I said, you might want to go Bounty Hunter, you might want to go Assassin, but here's a third alternative for you. Now, like I said, as always, the build spreadsheet is below for you to check in the description. This is the Executioner version of Yrliet. Like I said, we have a Sniper Assassin version, but unfortunately neither exploits or openings work on extra turns. We also have a Bounty Hunter version, and for this one, just unfortunately, exploits don't work on extra turns. However, the Bounty Hunt version with Ensnare the Prey, yeah, it really, really helps. If you're going into Act 3 of Argenta and Yrliet, basically having Yrliet throw down Ensnare the Prey and having Argenta do heavy burst fires with a heavy stubber wipes enemies. So it's a very easy way to get through that. But I hope you found this build helpful. We've got Ulfar tomorrow, and then Marazai, and then we've done all the companions, and then I can disappear for a little bit and start working on some more Rogue Trader builds. Let me know how your adventures are going, and I'll see you next time.